So phase 1 has happened. You got pre-approved. Phase 2, we get to go shopping, and that's the most exciting part, I think, besides actually owning the house and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to talk about phase 3. So let's recap really quick. In phase 2, we went shopping. We talked about contingencies. We talked about home inspection, well and septic inspection, and the appraisal. So there's now kind of this gap of waiting time. You're going to hear from your lender a little bit. They're going to say, hey, can you send us this document? And you might say, hey, you know what? I've already sent that document, but guess what? They might need it again. So if they need it again, I just want you to go ahead and send it, because this is their way of verifying your employment, verifying your credit, making sure that you didn't open any accounts, buy any furniture, buy a new car. This is all a part of the verification process before we can go to closing. Now, once we go to closing, this is the steps that we are going to take when it comes to that. We're going to get our final loan approval. So pre-approval does not mean that you've been approved for your loan. A pre-approval means that you meet the requirements to get a loan, but they still have to go through the process. And that process can take a couple days, a couple weeks, not days. That process can take a couple of days. And that's also when they're going to order an appraisal, and you pay for that out of pocket. That cost can vary, so it depends on the lender. It could be anywhere from $500 to $800, just depends on the appraiser, honestly. So we are verifying employment, we're verifying our credit scores, we're going through all that stuff with our lender. All right, so now you're going to get back with your real estate agent, and we're going to schedule a final walkthrough. And a final walkthrough can happen anywhere from a week to the day before closing. And what that is, your last chance to walk through the house. We're going to make sure that all of the repairs, if repairs were requested, we're going to make sure that those repairs were taken care of. More than likely, we're going to know that they were taken care of prior to this time frame, because the other agent for the other side is going to communicate all of that with us and give us the appropriate documentation that we need for that. But nonetheless, we are still going to make sure that everything is in tip-top shape. And this also may be your chance to go ahead and bring a tape measure if you need to do any kind of final measurements. Maybe you're going to go pick out your fridge if you don't have one, if the house doesn't come with one, things like that. So we're going to do a final walkthrough. We're going to have a document that is going to say, yay, it looks good, we're ready to go, or nay, we need some things to fix. Maybe a repair wasn't done, or maybe something happened to the house that we didn't know was going to happen, like a natural disaster. Well, the seller still owns that house, so it's still their responsibility to take care of it. Of course, we want to be kind and gentle and understanding, but at the same time, we still need to make sure that everybody is aware that, hey, something has happened. We need to have this fixed before closing. Now, if we have this fixed before closing, sometimes, depending on what it is, it might delay closing. We never really want to delay closing, but hey, it happens. So always mentally prepare yourself that closing can be delayed. It just happens. They're like, especially if you're buying a house with like a well or septic, those issues arise, and they're very costly issues, and time frame, it takes a while to get them taken care of, especially when you have to get like the health department involved and all that. But hey, we will talk about that in a different video. I want to talk about finishing up buying your house. So nonetheless, we have already been with the title company. More than likely, you have already sent your earnest money deposit to the title company, so they're holding on to it. Earnest money means good faith money, in case you don't remember from the first video. So good faith money shows the seller that you are very serious about this house and that you want to make it yours. So that can range in a variety of different price ranges. So they have the title company has already held your EMD for you. It is great because they're like the keeper of all things. They also are the ones that coordinate the closing with the lender and you as the buyer and the seller. Now, in the state of Virginia, the buyer can choose their own title company or title representation or attorney representation, as well as the seller can do the same thing. So you do have options in the state of Virginia to choose an attorney or a title company. Both are legal and allowed in the state of Virginia, whereas other states like North Carolina, that is an attorney-only state, so only an attorney can close on your house for you. This includes, when it comes to the closing, prepping the deed, getting the documents from the lender. The lender is going to give the title company a breakdown of everything that needs to be paid from the buyer. Any kind of exchange of money, like say HOA fees, the seller has already paid for the entire year. Well, the seller is going to get a refund from you, and you are going to pick up the remainder of the year for when you purchase the house on those HOA fees. So that's just one example. That's the most common example of when we have to reimburse the seller for things. Actually, another common example would be like a propane tank or an oil tank. So you would obviously reimburse the seller. Now, those are also part of negotiations, so definitely make sure that, you know, your real estate agent is using their awesome ninja negotiation skills, because I pride myself on all these different strategies that would be able to help us win the contracts and win you your dream home. So anyway, the title company or attorney are gathering all the documentations. They are also the ones that distribute funds to the other companies and to the seller side of things. So you are going to bring that. The lender is also going to be wiring money to the title company, and then it is the title company's responsibility to send the money to the appropriate places. So the seller is going to get their proceeds. The seller's mortgage is going to be paid off if it had a mortgage. If there's any kind of inspections any kind of repairs that were negotiated to be paid for at closing, then she's going to take care of those. He or she, I use a she about 90% of the time. So that is closing. So she is gathering all this documentation, and you are going to meet at the table and sign all of the documents. Some of the documents that you're going to sign is your deed that gets recorded at the courthouse, your deed of trust as well. So that means that you carry a mortgage on this property. So if you default, it gives the instructions in that deed on what to do or what the mortgage company will be doing if you default. So all of that gets recorded at the courthouse. I always say that even though Virginia is a wet signature state, I always say to be on the safe side, we need to make sure that everything is nice and recorded at the courthouse. Once we know and we get that confirmation that everything has been recorded, then we definitely are good to go. Now, because Virginia is a wet signature state, you do not have to wait to move into your new house until it's recorded. Sometimes it could take 24 hours to record at the courthouse. Sometimes it could take 48 hours to record at the courthouse. But no matter what, the courthouse is going to do their job and make sure that it's recorded, and then they send us a confirmation. They send the title company a confirmation. But guess what? Because we're a wet signature state, you get to go ahead and move into your new home. Congratulations, you just bought a house in Central Virginia. You are living the Central Virginia lifestyle when you have the mountains on one side and the coast on the other. It is such an exciting place to live. And that, in a nutshell, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 on how to buy a house in Central Virginia. I'm really excited to go in depth with a couple of other terms that you heard me say that you may or may not be familiar with. So we're going to talk about that in the next video. But I just want to be the one to say, if you found this to be super helpful, very valuable, and you learned a little bit, learned a couple tricks or two, be sure to subscribe. It definitely helps. And share this with a friend who's been talking about buying a house. I'd love to help them. Thanks so much.